What is going on, everybody? My name is Dan Romagno, and I'm the creator and host of the Past Less Traveled podcast. The Past Less Traveled podcast explores some of the most interesting places, persons, and events that you never knew you wanted to learn about. Each episode is an information-packed journey into some of the lesser-known histories of the world. With episodes ranging from ancient Macedonia to John Adams' role in the Boston Massacre, you will surely find a topic that piques your interest. Each episode is 10 to 20 minutes long, so you can fit this podcast into any part of your day. You could find The Past Less Traveled on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other platform you may use. You can also stay up to date with episode announcements and enjoy more history content on my Instagram at The Past Less Traveled, all one word, and on Twitter at The Past Less Traveled. That's PASTLESSTRAVELD. Tune in weekly to get your fill of some of the most interesting places, persons, and events that you never knew you wanted to learn about. And remember, we are all trapped in history, and history is trapped in all of us.
It's time to learn with the HistoryBoiz.
It also doesn't help that they've lost literally all their fucking hearing from
So much
like
rocking.
deadheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much rocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more rocking for you.
Yeah.
Too old to rock.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We on this week's episode we got special guest Jack Black. Chris, you gotta do a Jack Black voice. The
Where
whole
you go.
Rock.
Yeah.
Secret to be told. Bye, Jack Black.
Yeah. I gotta go.
It's good to have a famous person
Yeah.
just pop in, say a couple of
Yeah,
lines,
famous person,
take
Jack
off.
Black, hanging out with us. Also, 4 famous people.
Yeah. Just, that's what we do. We all just, it's
We
crazy.
invite our friends because when you're famous, you have
Famous friends.
famous friends
Okay.
automatically, and they just come over.
Well, you can't hang out with
Whenever
when
you
you're
want.
as famous as we are. You can't hang out with non-famous people.
They just don't understand.
They don't get it.
They don't understand what it's like to be so famous.
They don't get it.
No.
That's why I prefer whenever we meet regular fans and we go to Famous Dave's because he's
Yeah.
famous,
Oh.
but it's also Dave.
It's a middle ground.
It's also
us,
really
it's
good
just
food.
It's
Dave's.
hallowed ground where the famous and the non-fames
Yeah.
can be in the same place without
On equal footing.
yeah.
Yes.
On equal
It's
ground.
sort of like it's hollowed ground. You
Yeah.
go there and you
Enjoy your burnt ends.
and they can grant us tribute and we can accept or deny it.
or deny.
And
And deny
usually-
means throwing it across the room or in their face.
Yeah, I mean we can't kill them because of the hollowed ground.
Yeah.
If it was just
Or
if
we
it
could
was a
take-
fucking Arby's, we would
Yeah.
I would
Or take the
chop
plate
their
and
goddamn heads off
just dump it directly in the
with
trash.
with my katana.
Another cool guy.
Yeah. Katana Man.
I bought it at the mall.
When one of y'all said
I wish I said scythe,
famous
to be honest.
Dave's is like hollowed ground, I just assumed it was where like famous people went to duel each other. Like it was like kind of like a flipsy dipsy version of churches in Highlander.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So you got like John Hamm and Justin Thoreau having a sword fight in Famous Dave's. Someone was talking shit.
That's so funny.
Chris, why don't you do the flippin' intro?
The mother flipping.
Is this going to be a clean episode?
Yeah, no more swearing. And no more dirty jokes. Hey guys,
No.
fuck you. See, I've already fucked
I'll
up.
say whatever the fuck I want.
Told
How's
me not
that?
to say dirty jokes, and I came unglued. Anyway, we are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon, a famous person and history boy.
Sitting next to Tyler Armentrout. Not really. I'm less well known, but if you know about me, you're probably a lot cooler.
You're like Kyle Gass to my Jack Black. We're like they know about you.
No, I'm like more like an indie. I'm like
You're like a-
indie kind of thing. Like
You're
I'm
like
doing,
you're like a Zach Braff.
Oof.
Yeah, indie guy Zach Braff.
Indie guy
No,
Zach
I guess he made
Braff.
indie.
Garden State. He
Garden
made that
State.
indie movie, so Zach Braff.
Yeah, and then he used Kickstarter to make another movie.
I don't fucking know. You're not Zach Braff.
Thank you. Oh, cool. That was like someone
You're
telling
like,
me that like
You're Donald Faison.
yeah. Oh, I don't mind being Donald Faison. He's on Robot Chicken.
I'm Zach Meck. I am as famous as Robert Downey Jr. pre-rehab.
Oh yeah, we're talking
Prehab.
Prehab.
rehab.
And feeling like Robert Downey Jr. while in rehab.
Yeah. A good amount of years before Iron Man.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, though. That was his comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking
Great
Ally
movie.
McBeal time.
Oh.
Yes, very much so.
You had a big boy weekend.
Did turn into a man.
Finally, God.
Finally.
Woof.
We were all waiting for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, it's 3 men and a boy. Now we got to change it to history men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I fucked up the burn.
There was
on
one
that
boy left, so we were able to call it that.
And I am Jerry Nash. I am also a history boy. Not famous. Not
No.
famous. No one knows who I am, which is good. Means I can walk down the street.
Oh yeah, I'm famous for my sins, so.
You're infamous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah.
Well, he's only infamous because when he started solving crimes, then J. Jonah Jameson,
Yeah.
he was like, he wants to be famous, we'll make him infamous.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking that too.
Yeah.
Plus, when I moved in this neighborhood, I had to tell everybody, that I was moving here. You know what I mean? Door
yeah.
to door. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking
You're
about.
pederast.
I mean,
Public urinator. Frequent public urinator, but
that's for the courts to decide.
Right.
if a school bus full of children sees you public urinating, turns out you're a pederast.
You at least have to register with the sheriff's office.
All I was doing was driving past them as they're going to school, throwing beer bottles out the car at them. And your beer bottles were filled with urine. And you were going to school. I'd been up all night.
You wouldn't have done it if you weren't on all that cocaine.
That's true.
Jerry, what are we talking about today? What's the history story? Enough about us.
Well, today we are continuing our story about Pedro Albizu Campos. So it's part 2 of 2. So last time we left you, Pedro Albizu Campos was arrested for inciting an island-wide labor strike. But before he was arrested, however, Police Chief Colonel E. Francis Riggs, before he was assassinated, of course, the man responsible for the Rio Piedras massacre, invited Albizu to dinner.
I don't trust it.
Yeah. Well, knowing it had something to do with these labor strikes, and that it could absolutely be a trap, Albizu still went anyway.
He's like, if he runs out and leaves me with the check, I'm going to be pissed.
I was about to ask, like, what was on the menu? Was it like the Puerto Rican baked chicken with the blood?
It was
pork blood?
lavish.
Okay.
It was a full
Lavish
spread.
meals. It was like a bunch of food that they didn't get all the time. It was like these steaks and, fancy desserts and like, 5-star dining here.
No, I mean, that just bums me out, though, because I don't know about you guys, but I've been in the mood for mofongo. I don't know if you've ever had mofongo before,
Dude,
but it's
I would
fried
love-
Susan
plantain,
loves it.
just,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
There's no
bellissimo.
way I wouldn't like it, and I don't even know what it is.
It's delicious. I mean,
I've been in the mood for some mole recently,
Oh, I
actually.
love mole.
Holy
Mole's
moly.
so fucking
This
good.
this reminds me of when Zapata was invited to
to the meeting.
the meeting.
yeah.
And they
Yeah.
probably had snacks out at the very least.
There's some crackers,
Crackers, some cheeses,
some Triscuits.
some Triscuits,
Vegetable trays, Hormel.
American cheese,
The good stuff.
which should have been red flag.
Yeah, it should have been a red flag. So they sat down to dinner and, the whole group, they talked about everything but the strikes. They talked about baseball. They talked about everything except the strikes. And when Albizu got up to leave, Riggs asked him if he wanted to be the Puerto Rican senator to the United States. And that's something that Albizu wanted and had previously lost an election trying to get that seat. So Riggs knew that this is something that he really wanted. And Riggs told him that he could easily finance it. I mean, his daddy's the head of one of the biggest banks in America.
Just doing some backdoor deals here.
Yeah, and he would make sure that Albizu was set up with like $100,000 as well at the beginning of his reign. Like basically pay him off. All he would have to do is step aside and let Riggs take care of this strike instead of Albizu.
Turns out no one was in the room where it happened.
Yeah.
Well, Albizu politely declined his offer
Nice.
Thanks, but no thanks, jerk off.
and left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Nice.
thanks for the meal. It was delicious.
Exactly.
Say hello to your mother for me.
Yeah.
Hello, your mother for me.
Now, the massacre happened soon after this meal, as did the arrest.
Like later that night?
No, a couple of days later, as well as the arrest of Albizu Campos and the assassination of Police Chief Riggs.
Fuck that guy.
But the offer of money and power in exchange for subservience never left the table. We'll get back to that later. So on March 21st, 1937, it was Palm Sunday, 18 days after Pedro Albizu Campos was arrested and sentenced to 11 years in prison, a peaceful demonstration was organized in support of Albizu Campos and the other recently arrested nationalists. The organizers even obtained permits from the town of Ponce's mayor to peacefully protest, even though that the Supreme Court had deemed that the permits weren't necessary for a peaceful assembly. It was done out of a courtesy to get these permits anyway.
Gotta
They're
dot the
we don't-
I's,
Yeah, we don't
cross
want
the
to.
T's.
We don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. We're going to get permits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But General Blanton Winship, the U.S. appointed governor of Puerto Rico, ordered the police chief to increase the police force in the southern city and to stop, quote, by all means necessary,
Ugh.
end quote, any demonstration conducted by the nationalists in Ponce.
I've seen this kind of thing happen. It totally works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Over 200 heavily armed soldiers with tear gas and Thompson submachine guns. They were the insular
Tommy
police
guns.
force. Yeah, with Tommy guns and
Like the
tear
porn
gas
star.
and sure.
I've heard.
Yeah. So these 200 heavily armed insular police forces, they set up blockades on the west end and the east end of the parade route. So it kind of sandwiched them in there.
Yeah.
Just before the protest was about to begin, without notice to the organizers or any opportunity to appeal this decision, or any time to arrange an alternate venue or route, the permits were abruptly withdrawn.
No.
Like right before the parade was about to begin. Which is, you
Should
can't
have New
fucking do
Orleans.
that. Yeah.
They love a parade.
You know what they
Fucking
should have done
dildos.
is they should have abruptly added a curfew 15 minutes before the time that the curfew needed to start. I think
They're
that
going to start tear gassing people?
Yeah, yeah. I think that would've been-
That was the correct way to do it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
as I
My
like to,
blood is already starting to boil.
I call it the Durkin
Buckle
method.
up, Zach.
I know.
Buckle
I know.
up.
I'm preloading myself with stories for.
Okay, good.
for
We're gonna
Pal-
need it after this. After
I
this part
like that
here.
our situation with fucking shithead Mayor Durkin was still so tame compared to this.
Oh yeah, but not different. Not different.
I definitely see some similarities.
Yeah. As the peaceful demonstrators marched to La Borinqueña, Puerto Rico's national song, played by a brass band that was following them,
Ooh.
Cool.
the insular police force coldly opened fire on the crowd. These are like live machine guns.
I thought you were going to say the insular police force began to dance.
No. People ran for their lives. Over 200 people were wounded, and 17 were killed, and many
Wow.
more arrested, including Carmen Fernandez, a 7-year-old girl who was shot in the back as she tried to run away.
Holy shit.
That's the opposite of dancing.
Being shot?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
who were wounded were also shot as they tried to run for safety. People were shot trying to go into their own homes. Some protesters were beaten with clubs and bare hands. Some were pulled from their hiding places and shot. One man hid behind a statue of Jesus when an insular policeman snuck up behind him, grabbed him, put his gun to his head, and executed him.
Jesus. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Was there.
It wasn't intended to be funny.
I know.
I
Some were shot looking out their windows to see what was going on.
Look, this guy's looking out his window.
Yeah. There was an old woman whose head was smashed open with a club, spilling her brains into the street.
Oh God.
People running for safety and the pursuing insular police force slipped on the spilled blood and entrails that were in the street.
Jeez.
One man, Bolivar Marquez Telequia, I believe it's how it's pronounced. He was a national cadet, and he wrote on the wall in front of him as he died, "Viva la República, abajo los asesinos." Long live the Republic, down with the murderers. He wrote it in his own blood on the wall as he died. There's a picture of it, too. It was known from then on as the Ponce Massacre. And the whole thing took 15 minutes.
Oh.
Or as the Insular Police Force called it, the Battle of Ponce.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And we'll kind of get to how it was viewed right afterwards.
I'm laughing at the Insular Police Force, not at
No, I know.
To make that clear.
When Governor General Blanton Winship wired Washington to tell him about what had just happened, he told them that his police force put down a violent riot in which the rioters were armed.
Yeah.
They were holding palm branches. It was Palm Sunday. They were holding palm branches.
familiar.
Not a single one of them was holding a weapon. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah. Well, I know. I have friends who were in Seattle when
Yeah.
the police took fire, and every one of them has said it was a nonviolent protest.
Well, and
Yep.
what did they call it? They called it a riot.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the same shit with saying it's a battle of instead of massacre.
Exactly.
A
It's the
riot
same-
instead of a protest.
It's the
Yep.
same exact thing.
You know Schwa got hit with that fucking shrapnel from a flashbang, right?
I did not.
No.
Yeah, on his
Is he
leg.
okay?
Yeah, he's fine, but like...
Much of the melee was caught on film by a man named Juan Emilio Vigue, who lived in Ponce, and he shot it from his window.
And he was also the first man to have a giant camera phone.
No.
He was the first man on Instagram.
He actually bought a new camera and was like wanting to try it out.
This is
It
the
was just
30s,
near.
correct?
Yeah, it was just near, and he picked it up and he like had to hide and stuff. He eventually like went down and like shot more footage, and if you see it, it doesn't look real. It looks totally staged. Like you see cops walking down the street shooting guns, like shotguns at people, and like you see dead bodies in the street. You see people like the Insular Police Force standing above dead bodies in the street and chatting with each other, and like it's insane. It's insane.
I wonder if there's like a psychological name for like pretty much like Gestapo disease.
Oh,
like if you're
yeah.
part of like the law enforcement.
Well, it's the Stanford prison experiment, right? Like it's
Yeah.
that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
That when you're given sort of a power and a responsibility, you'll just sort of become that, right?
Yeah.
Without any checks and balances, right? That's what it is. That's what that proved. The full film, though, that he shot has never been released publicly, but scraps of it can be found in documentaries and online. Like I saw some of it on YouTube. Feel free to look it up. We're not going to post it. It is very troubling, and I don't
It's like
recommend watching it if you
kind
know.
of a trigger warning situation.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
There were infamous photos that were also taken, and both the film and the photos were used as proof that the protesters were not armed. Fun fact about Vigue, and this will be a bit of a palate cleanser, this will bring us back a little bit. He actually worked as an uncredited assistant director on the first American feature film ever produced and the first biopic ever produced. Any guesses which that was?
Oh, absolutely. I have no idea.
Birth of a Nation?
No.
Biopic? I'm gonna say Pancho Villa.
The Life of General Villa.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that's a great guess. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that is a great guess.
It was Raoul Walsh's first movie as well.
I figured he worked on like a train's coming into the station.
It was a biopic.
It was a biopic.
I mean, he could.
Was he in it? Via? Pancho Villa?
Oh, yeah.
No, he played himself.
No, I would
Yeah.
assume so.
Yeah,
But
and like they would shoot the battles as they happened. You know what I mean?
crazy.
Yeah, and
What a
then like
weird time
reenact
that
stuff.
was.
Yeah.
what a weird time every time is.
Yeah, he has this funny story though. Vigue does about going to see a movie with Pancho Villa and his crew. Mm-hmm. One of Pancho Villa's bodyguards, he had one eye, and his name was Cholo Martinez.
Nice.
And
yeah.
they get up to the theater. Martinez goes, "Well, you got to charge me half price because I only got one eye." And,
Only gonna see half the movie.
well, the theater director goes like, "You know, if everybody here, you decide to put on an eye patch, I'd be out of business. And he goes, well, then anyone with an eye patch, you got to tell them to show you if they have one eye or not. So he lifts up his eye patch, and you can see the empty socket underneath.
Right.
And the dude, the guy at the theater pukes, and he lets everybody in for free.
Nice.
But it doesn't stop there. Like,
You make the theater director puke.
Yeah.
You get in for free.
you get it for free. So
There's
That's
a
a policy
sign.
I can live
Yeah.
behind.
so they all go in, and it's a movie about Jesse James.
Cool.
And it's a short, how those films used to be, but
One Brad Pitt.
no. They're riding at the screen in the beginning, and like they're shooting and stuff, they're being cowboys and outlaws and stuff. And they like dive for cover and start shooting at the screen too. And like
Oh, that's
everyone's
funny.
shooting, and then like there's a gunfight in the movie, so everyone's shooting.
Is this because they're
Just
like,
movies.
Because the moving pictures
It's
are
moving
realistic.
pictures.
It's that
yeah.
thing where like the train's coming towards.
Yeah,
and they react
yeah,
to it?
it's like that.
Or is it? I was wondering if it was more like a Rocky Horror Picture Show where they were just
I
part of
think,
it.
honestly,
Lips.
It's
honestly,
like somewhere in between.
I think it's a mixture. Yeah. So 4 people died in this.
Jesus
Were killed
Christ.
in this, including the projectionist, and everyone still wanted to watch the rest of the movie, but they couldn't do it. They even knocked
There's
the
probably different reels and stuff.
well, yeah,
like,
and they like knocked the projector over, so like they couldn't do it. And like
that's
they were
rowdy crap.
they were even gonna shoot the theater manager, but he had to be carted away because he got a stray bullet in the leg.
Is this the same guy that puked?
Same guy that puked.
Oh my
and
God.
so
Guy had a terrible.
Could
he's
they get any
Shouldn't have
worse?
left them in
Yeah.
for free.
So Pancho Villa yelling from his horse at the end of it, like that was one hell of a thing. He jumps up on his horse and he says, quote, "One thing about movies, only people with strong nerves should be permitted to watch them." End quote.
I agree.
I don't know why that wasn't in our Mexican Revolution episode.
I was waiting to use it. Anyway,
Yeah, I know.
We were
kinda
covering
didn't
a lot of
really-
stuff.
It didn't
Yeah.
really fit into that story.
so that was a good little palate cleanser. Still, though, even though they had all of this photographic and film evidence, no charges were ever brought against any insular police officer, including Blanton Winship. He actually never apologized or never did anything.
When did he die?
I don't even want to get into the end of his life. I'm just he here in a second he'll be removed from his office, and that's that.
Yeah, doesn't sound familiar at all with the current fucking administration that we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got off easy. He lived out the rest of his days nicely.
What happened to the people who murdered Breonna Taylor again?
Oh, nothing.
Dude, come on. Blood is boiling.
Yeah.
Should be.
So there was actually a congressional investigation on the matter of the Ponce massacre, though. And actually, the prosecutor on the case, he resigned in protest, stating that Winship was interfering with the investigation. Winship even had a military parade in the next year in 1938 in Ponce.
Fucking asshole.
Yeah, to show that the town had been pacified due to his, quote, law and order campaign,
Oh my!
end quote.
Oh my god. I feel that
What's up with assholes loving that show so much?
the people who are writing our reality are running out of ideas.
Yeah. They're running out of button terms to like put on things.
I don't know. You have
Things that sound nice.
piece of shit leader wants a military parade. I fucking. It's like J.J.
Yeah.
Abrams writing the last Star Wars movie.
Yeah, right,
It's like,
right.
what? Bring Palpy back. Whatever.
Yeah. You're gonna see it more and more as we keep talking about this.
I mean, that's what history is.
Yeah.
Just
So an attempt was actually made on Winship's life during this parade. Like several people tried to assassinate him. It didn't work, but
it's not a good parade without an assassination.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially a military parade. But after which, Winship was finally removed as governor from Puerto Rico by FDR. While Pedro Albizu Campos languished in prison, totally cut off from the outside world, and his health deteriorating, a new man was on the rise in Puerto Rico. His name was Luis Munoz Marin. Munoz Marin's father had been a respected, prominent proponent for Puerto Rican independence a generation before. And everyone thought, oh, if his son ever gets into politics, like, he's going to be like the second coming of like his father, maybe. But Marin wasn't growing up, he wasn't a great student in Puerto Rico, and an even worse student in the United States, as his father was the United States representative to Puerto Rico. And his family kind of moved around a lot. They went from New York to Puerto Rico, and then New York to Puerto Rico. They did that all the time.
Oof, that's a
Washington, D.C., New York, Puerto Rico.
Imagine
They
in
kind of
those
just
days,
bounced
especially.
around.
Going by boat.
Yeah. So he never really found his place in the world. He never really belonged anywhere he went.
Right.
You know what I mean? He dreamed of being a writer, a poet, and living that like bohemian lifestyle that was on the way up.
It was
Yeah.
so hot at the time.
Yeah,
Right, for The
yeah.
Simpsons. Yeah.
You just want to go to the Moulin Rouge.
Right.
Yeah.
More like the Moulin Rage. If they're seeing that movie.
He married a woman named Muna Lee, a American from Mississippi. He had 2 children with her, but Maureen wasn't a good husband, and he was an even worse father. He spent much of his time living his little bohemian dream in New York and Greenwich
Bohemian
Village.
Dreamium.
He like started up several like literary newspapers for like the writers of the time. Like he wanted to be like F. Scott Fitzgerald and like Ernest Hemingway and like those people, and like hang out in that like bohemian type of thing and like clubs and bars and stuff.
I'd imagine
Smoke
he was
jazz cigarettes.
Yeah.
He was like, if I only drink enough, I can be like them.
Right.
Without realizing that that's only part of the equation.
Fuck, that's what I've been doing this whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like Hemingway, minus the writing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't own a shotgun.
Yeah. And with a family back in Puerto Rico, he kind of bounced back from New York and Puerto Rico, and like he would send these letters to his wife asking her for money. His wife would be like, "I can't give you money. Like, we're poor as hell. You got to at some point give us money. Like come on, come back here and take care of your family."
Baby, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Hanging out with Satchmo and like the best opium is over here.
Oh, he was an opium addict, my friend. A severe opium addict.
I would
Totally
be too at the
surprised.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be right now if I had my stuff with me.
Yeah, he was a massive alcoholic and an opium addict. And that'll come up again, too.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Right. And Maureen and Muna Lee, they divorced in 1938, so Maureen could marry his mistress.
Well, she got half the opium.
Yeah, well,
That's part of the settlement.
Yeah. It's like, not half my opium.
Half the opium den went to her.
yeah. He eventually, like, he had a couple of newspapers he started and subsequently failed. When he came back to Puerto Rico to basically start his political career, because he could with his name,
Right.
at first he was in the Independista camp with Albizu Campos.
Right.
And they had actually talked with each other, and they were actually like friends for a little bit. However, once he was elected to Puerto Rico's legislative body that just governs Puerto Rico, he started to distance himself from that movement, and he actually joined the Liberal Party. The one in the last episode we talked about Albizu basically talking about the Liberal Party being infiltrated by Wall Street and the United States
Right.
to turn them, right? That was the whole reason for the Rio Piedras massacre.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious too the reason why that this guy changed parties. Like, follow the money, follow the opium.
Right,
Like,
right, yeah.
The spice must flow.
Exactly. Very much Dune.
And he rose to power pretty quickly. People liked him. And again, he was talking about things that people liked to begin with.
Like sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
But his votes are what talks, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So when he would go to vote, though, it would be for United States industrial interests
So
rather
you're
than
saying a
independence.
politician would say one thing
And do
then
another?
do the other when the actual vote came down.
Yes. Yes.
Right? That happens a lot. I can't even make a joke. Like, that's
I know,
fucking
that's just something
really annoying that's pretty much the American system.
our representatives
Not
don't
the American system,
represent
American
us.
system, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Gotta love late stage capitalism.
Yeah. And, you know, after the Ponce massacre, people really didn't want to rock the boat anymore. Like, the normal Puerto Rican people didn't want to do that. So they voted for Luis Muñoz Marin because it was a safe bet. You know,
They
what I mean?
recognize the name.
Biden.
They recognized the name. It was a safe bet. Let's not rock the boat too much. We've already seen enough violence from the independentistas, so let's do something. Let's normalize this.
Right.
And if Netflix has taught us anything, bringing a show back from the dead, that book is closed, the show's over. They're gonna bring it back. It's gonna be just as good as the original. So let's just go with it. It's not gonna be a huge disappointment.
I don't know specifically what you're talking about,
But that's pretty much every single one of them.
remember those Fantastic Beasts movies were fucking dog shit.
We wanted more Harry Potter so bad.
I didn't. I was good.
During World War II, he spearheaded a bunch of public housing projects, and a modernization of industry in the country called Operation Bootstrap.
Ugh.
Now, Operation Bootstrap shifted Puerto Rico's economy even more so to an export economy solely with the United States, instead of smaller local markets that it had been on. So they already own everything, but now we're going to give them even more, kind of a deal.
So
you
this
know?
is Operation Bootstrap for
Yes.
the bootlickers.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, what came with it were a plethora of new tax breaks and subsidies that were handed out like candy to American companies.
How weird.
Yeah, that built factories and
Every time I hear
industries.
the phrase tax breaks, it's weird how it never seems to go to, like, the people who are really struggling.
Nah, it goes to companies who create jobs.
Yeah. Fuck jobs.
But they're paying them. Well, they did get that wage increase from Albizu's strike, so now they get paid $1.50 a day.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Woohoo!
big money.
You know, there's a lot of people that say that Operation Bootstrap was a failure, and it really was, but not for the American companies. Right? It wasn't a failure with them, but it was for the Puerto Rican people.
It's like the Trump administration.
I know. The economy's good.
Well,
right?
you know, the rich are getting richer, so
Yeah.
that's something.
Yeah, so that's something.
You know, everyone else is out of a job.
But this did make Luis Munoz Marin more popular in Puerto Rico, and consequently, Pedro Albizu Campos and his independentistas made their support totally dry up, especially during the 40s. And he's in prison. He can't do anything,
It's
right?
so hard to lead a revolution from prisons.
Yeah.
Just ask the rock guy from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Korg. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Pedro Albizu Campos, in 1943, he had to be moved to a hospital in New York because of his health problems that he was getting while in prison. But
just to clarify, he was considered like a political prisoner, right? Or deemed like a terrorist.
I think it depends on who you ask. The Americans would consider him a terrorist.
Right.
But the nationalists and the independentistas, they would consider him a political prisoner.
Right.
I would consider him a political prisoner.
Well, I'm just curious as to even back then, if they deemed this guy as a
They
terrorist.
probably didn't have as much of a cut and dry definition of terrorism
Yes.
at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, to me, it's a little shocking that they would hospitalize him.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy to me.
Well, keep in mind, when he went to prison the first time, he went to a federal prison in Atlanta.
Right.
When he was arrested
Atlanta.
a second time, which we'll get to, he didn't go there. And we'll get to that.
Okay.
In 1947, though, he was finally released. And when he returned to Puerto Rico, he found the place different.
Did he served this full 11 years?
Yes.
Fuck.
Yeah.
He must have got out in 47 and was like, is the biggest bomb still made out of TNT? Oh, no, big time no.
It's TNT. It's dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah, he found his support almost gone. And the Liberal Party under Luis Munoz Marin totally in charge. Like, nearly every seat in their legislature was of the Liberal Party, and Marin was at the head of it. And all the prison had really done to Albizu was further radicalize him. Of course it would, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
He's like, nah.
Yeah, so when he got back, he made rousing speeches against what he viewed as a propaganda campaign against the independence movement. He even said when Marin was running and going to be elected, he said, "Why do we even vote for these people? Why do we keep voting for these people? Why don't we all stay home? If we stayed home, maybe they would make staying home on election day illegal."
Sounds like me in 2012.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like me now.
Right.
I don't know, when you really want one asshole out of office.
Totally, but it's like, who are we voting for? Why do if we all didn't vote, what kind of message would that send?
That was literally what I said in 2012.
Yeah.
That's how we got Trump.
Yeah, no, I know.
That was 2016.
2016.
No, I know, but I was saying in 2012.
Yeah,
I voted in 2016 because fuck that guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Big time.
But the United States wasn't going to let Albizu off so easily. He had around-the-clock FBI detail that shadowed him everywhere. His every move.
Cool.
They even pulled over and interrogated anyone that met with him. They actually broke the stoplights so they would have an excuse to pull over whoever they wanted that talked to Albizu.
That feels corrupt to me. I'm just gonna
Oh, yeah.
go ahead and feel.
That's the FBI, though.
But also super fun if you're the ones who get to break the stoplights because,
Did they
Man.
throw rocks at him?
yeah, I mean,
No, I think they just
They
cut
developed
wires
some
over.
sort of point system.
No, they actually hired kids to do it.
yeah.
They're like, here's a couple coconuts. Go break those lights.
Oh, they'll climb up there for some coconuts.
Oh yeah, I know I would.
Yeah,
Wait, do you get to keep the coconuts when you're done?
yes.
Okay.
The United States knew, the FBI, I should say, the FBI knew, as well as Albizu, that he was far from finished in Puerto Rico. He was indeed planning an armed insurrection for Puerto Rican independence.
That's for the best.
Yeah. Now, in 1948, Law 53 was passed.
That doesn't sound ominous.
No,
At least it's not 66.
No. It was known, remember when we talked about how the Constitution can be a ball gag? Well, this was known as the gag law. That's how it's known. Law 53 was known as the gag law.
It sounds like it's going to
before
be
or
full of
after?
silly shenanigans.
Yeah.
The gag law, whackety smack.
Jeez.
Is it before or after they killed all the Jedis in Puerto Rico? Oh, after, because that was 66.
Yeah.
And it was actually championed by Luis Munoz Marin, who was the first elected governor of Puerto Rico in the next year, in 1949. The United States were actually like, you know what? Instead of the president picking your governor, maybe you guys should decide who your governor is. So, of course, it was Marin who won.
Jesus.
Law 53 was signed into law designed to suppress any notion of Puerto Rican independence. Now, this law made it illegal to own or display a Puerto Rican flag, even in your own home.
Ooh.
Because if they raided your home and they found it,
Oh,
you're in
you
trouble,
better
buddy.
And our
Yeah.
fucking piece of shit government's doing the exact same thing right now with the Confederate flag.
Jesus Christ. I will torch that flag any day of the week.
Torch any flag. Fuck flags.
That's true.
And, you know, folks, if you're a huge fan of Dukes of Hazzard, I am, you could put any flag on the General Lee. And also, you could have any Charger be a car that is cool with a different flag, maybe a different name.
I also want to point out, just don't torch the Puerto Rican flag. They did that on Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah, no, don't do that.
And that,
the Puerto Rican flag carries more weight than a lot of flags. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. You know what I mean? Some flags have become meaningless. Not that one. Honestly, that is a symbol of people that have fought and died. And
well, when you
are still
understand,
fighting.
that's the thing about symbols. It's like if the symbol becomes more powerful than what that represents,
Exactly.
that's a problem.
Exactly. Yes.
You have to remember, like, it has to mean something.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. To this day, it still means something. This law also made it illegal to even hum or whistle the Puerto Rican national anthem.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just like our government is making humming Leonard Skinner to me.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
I love me some Skinner.
I was gonna say I don't want to fucking hear any goddamn Skinner.
Skinner sucks.
I hate Skinnerd. Fuck Skinnerd.
Dude, to all of our listeners out there, this is just my personal opinion.
Oh,
but
that's just my opinion.
fuck Southern rock.
Thank
Fuck
you.
all of it. The Allman
Fuck Molly
Brothers.
Hatchet.
Fuck all of you assholes. Seriously. Fucking learn how to play more than just the pentatonic scale, you motherfuckers.
I like Simple Man. I'm a
that's
simple kind of man.
Even the Allman Brothers.
Jack Black's back.
No.
I forgot my wallet. Ring-a-goo. Gotta go. And he's gone again.
Your guys' Jack Black impressions are spot on.
Well, that's because he was really good.
How do you know? I've never said my Jack Black impression.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I've done it before, and when you heard him walk in, you go, actually, that's what he sounds
that
like.
could that could
I
be.
mean,
I'm like, wow.
That,
Wow,
yeah.
I thought it was Chris doing that. But
It's not just Chris throwing his voice after all. It's really
it's
riggedy
rock
goo
legend, a rigagoo rock Jack Black.
attack.
It also became a crime to speak against the U.S. government in any way, to speak in favor of Puerto Rican independence, to print, publish, sell, or exhibit any material intended to paralyze or destroy the insular government, or to organize any society, group, or assembly of people with a similar, quote, destructive intent, end quote.
So, the Constitution means nothing there.
No, but this is almost verbatim what the Smith Act was in the United States, which made all things communist illegal. Keep in mind, this is right.
Right,
This is
right.
the end of the 40s. Red
But
Scare
Jerry,
is rampant up.
communism's bad.
Yeah, look at Stalin. He killed a lot of people, so
Yeah,
so it's bad.
It's bad.
So we had to kill.
Capitalism has never gotten anyone killed.
No,
Yeah.
no. The Congo has never been a mess. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, it is.
Damn.
It's a fucked up story.
I'd give my arm and
your
my
little
leg to
buddy's
hear that
Belgium,
story.
Yikes.
Nice. Nice.
Your buddies in
fuck.
Belgium aren't that innocent.
Yeah. So those found violating this law could be punished with up to 10 years in prison and or a $10,000 fine.
I was going to say 2 minutes of full tickling.
No. 10 years in prison. And this is the two prisons in Puerto Rico, Oso Blanco and La Princesa,
That
which
sounds
are
way
which
worse
are hell on earth.
than tickling.
Yes, it is.
Aren't those prisons like really bad now?
They're closed
Oh
now.
yeah, okay, no, maybe I'm thinking.
There's actually a sign in front of La Princesa, I believe, that says that this place stands as a symbol of man's inhumanity towards man.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Oof.
Inhumanity towards man. I mean, sounds
Yeah.
familiar in general.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also that.
Now, to a lot of people, they were confused why Marin was working with the United States so closely in passing this law. Well, it turns out he was offered the same deal that Albizu was offered. Hey,
Fucking money.
we'll finance your whole
Oh, that's
thing.
Skrilla.
Yeah, and we'll give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the United States also upped the ante. You see, J. Edgar Hoover had a one-page document on Marin.
A whole page.
One page. And this one-page document was used to control Puerto Rico into the 60s, I think, when Marin finally left.
Jesus.
What it said is that he was an alcoholic and an opium addict. And this is a real document. It's viewable online. You can easily find it. This is not conspiratorial in any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
This is real. He was an opium addict, and he absolutely grew poppies and smoked opium while he was governor of Puerto Rico.
See, that's cool.
Also on the
cool-
cover of Time magazine.
That's a cool thing to do.
Was he smoking opium on the cover of Time
No.
magazine?
You know what's
No.
also a cool thing to do? A man wearing a dress.
It's fine as long as you don't fuck shit up.
Honestly, like I said in the last episode,
Full ball gown.
my favorite. Yeah, and he made that in a full ball gown.
Yeah.
And I want to re-say, don't have issue with the ball gown.
No.
It's the other shit he did.
Yes.
If all he did was walk around wearing ball gowns.
It's being the most paranoid man in the world. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to crack this. Let's crack at the same time.
Wait, can you hand me one? Is there another one?
Let's do a 3-way crack.
Let's do a 3-way crack. Let's keep it in the show.
Let's release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. 1, 2, 3. Cool. The FBI blackmailed him with this document.
First and only time.
Yeah. And so it effectively made him a puppet governor.
He ain't never going to be president now.
Yeah.
I made like 3 Hamilton references. Secretly.
No, Albizu, as we stated in the first episode, was a regular at Salon Boricua, which was still a hub for the Independistas. And of course, he was followed by a retinue of FBI agents every time. But what he would do is he would go in nonchalantly, and he would get his hair cut, and he would go to the bathroom. But in the bathroom, there's a small hatch in the floor.
Ooh,
There's a secret room in there.
Yeah, underneath where everybody poops. You can stand in the poop.
Yeah. But they would have meetings in there, like short.
In the poop? I was
quick,
joking, Jerry.
No. In this little basement area that they had. And they would have their meetings in there about, their movement and what's going on. And he would come out of the room, and one of the barbers would say, did the FBI wipe your ass for you? And I forget what he said, but he'd say like,
that's code.
They tried or something like that. And it was code for saying that the meeting had taken place.
Right.
Right. And so like, there were some days where he would drive the 5 miles back and they would follow him.
This is the same barbershop from the first episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Salon Boricua.
Yeah.
There were some days though, if it was real hot, because he grew up there, he could take it. But the FBI agents couldn't.
Nice.
If it was real hot, he walked the 5 miles home and showed everyone his new haircut.
That's fucking awesome.
Right? I couldn't handle it. I'd be like fucking Jonathan Groff. Just sweating.
It's crazy, man. Like, living over there, when I first moved, horrible. I fucking hated everything. The humidity, the heat. It was unbearable. By the time we were about to move, I'm wearing pants and like a hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it was that fucking ridiculous. And it's
I
like,
think we may have talked in the past on this podcast about when the 3 of us went to New York, and we're like shorts and t-shirts on the subway
And
with
just
air conditioned,
just
pouring
sweating.
fucking
Yeah.
sweat. We're all from Seattle,
Yeah.
where it's not humid at all,
No,
despite
no.
raining so much.
Well,
It's
and
a dry heat.
I'm from a dry desert heat, so it doesn't really. Yeah.
oh, we got a little bit of humidity over here, but it's not
A little bit.
It's not, it's
no,
not
nothing.
Puerto Rican
When you
or
hit the
New York humidity.
the
Well,
South.
it's like when I was in Carolina, like I remember in the middle of July walking out of the airport and just being like,
Oh God.
"Oh, now I know what people mean when they say dry heat."
Yeah.
This ain't it.
Yeah,
It was
dude.
11 at night, and it was just like, "What the fuck?"
You're literally walking into soup is how I describe it.
Yeah,
No,
I
I-
never experienced that before.
No, everywhere is worse than Washington State.
Oh, we have the best summers, dude.
Iowa's worse. Minneapolis is worse.
Hell, Idaho's worse.
yeah.
Idaho's hotter.
Florida's a nightmare. New York's a nightmare, like humidity wise. Even when we went to Japan in October,
Oh, Japan, yeah.
and it totally slipped my mind I was in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Until I got there.
You're surrounded by water.
Yeah. We brought like rain slickers because Eva was like, "It's gonna rain while we're here." When we went to the post office the one time, we sent all that shit home.
That was October, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
October.
I've been to Europe many times, and it's actually never been that humid.
Yeah.
Europe, I think, is a little. Maybe
a
it's
little
where I
bit more.
was.
Well, yeah, you were in
I don't know. Hungary.
Budapest. Yeah.
Hungary was hot, but it wasn't humid.
Yeah.
But I've been, you know,
Landlocked.
Dublin,
Yeah.
London. Reykjavik was actually not hot, turns out.
I wonder why.
Old Snowland.
Right.
So Vidal Santiago Diaz, remember him? He's the guy that took over Salon Boricua after
Right, yeah, yeah.
Maldonado died of throat cancer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
After he was
Yeah.
given the
I've
throat cancer.
Given throat cancer.
I wanted to clarify, like literally they just took somebody's tumor and...
No,
Like, how
no.
did that work? Like,
He was given a series of injections.
okay.
And after weeks, he like couldn't chew, and then he couldn't swallow, and he couldn't swallow his own saliva, and he kept going back to Dr. Cornelius Rhodes, going like,
So was
"Dude,
it-
I got something wrong," and he goes, The injections.
It was injecting a carcinogen then.
Something to give him throat cancer, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how it works.
I feel like in the last episode we heavily imply he'd literally just cut the tumor out and put him back, and I realized that doesn't make any sense.
He's giving someone cancer that's going to happen very quickly.
If you listen to the last episode and it sounded like that's what we were saying, that's not actually what was happening.
It was a series of injections.
Like I said in the last episode, the dude literally was weaponizing cancer.
Yeah. And other, tuberculosis.
Right.
And other things you can't cure.
The consumption.
So Vidal Santiago Diaz and Pedro Albizu Campos, they planned down there in this little room.
The hardest part must have been occasionally when a dick would just come through and they'd be like, it's not that kind of hole. You get it out of here.
No, it was pretty well hidden, actually. They planned on getting their hands on guns, ammunition, explosives, Puerto Rican flags.
Hell
yeah. Oh, yeah.
The biggest gun of all.
And then stash them in strategic areas until the time was right. Mm-hmm. So this whole insurrection that they're planning, remember, Albizu was a consultant with the Irish. This is all modeled. Right. Yep. His whole insurrection plan was modeled after the 1916 Easter Rebellion.
This is over 30 years ago, too.
Yeah. And he was like, I agree with them. We can't beat the United States. We just can't. So what we're doing is this insurrection will bring national or global attention to the plight of Puerto Rico, basically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so that's what their plan was.
Yeah, it was it's just like that.
Just like that, yes.
Just like in Dublin.
And he talked with
really
De Valera.
Weren't planning to win.
No. And neither are they. But yeah, he was friends with De Valera, so they talked.
How is a small, scrappy group of people going to beat a world power like that?
They don't. But that's not the point, you know what I mean? And they actually trained cadets of the Republic with smuggled training manuals from the United States to hand signals and all those things, how to engage and disengage and different types of cover and stuff. And they drilled and stuff, and they were actually filming it for a while, and they joked around, admonished each other for their bad acting and stuff. And then all of a sudden, once everyone found out that they were making a movie, everyone wanted to be a part of the revolution, right?
Right.
So, but they found out about it and they shut down their film production, so they can't do it anymore. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, you don't want
even though they had wooden guns,
right,
and stuff.
You don't need that spotlight on you right now.
Yeah. Soon though, Vidal Santiago Diaz disappeared.
No.
Completely disappeared. Actually, the regulars that came to the shop early in the morning, they noticed the door wide open and no one in there.
So he was black bagged.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Actually, what happened is he was opening the salon. There was a homeless man or drunk across the street. And as soon as he opened the door and kind of opened the place, the dude did a loud cough. And this car sped up, and FBI agents came out, kicked open the door, basically, grabbed him, and, punched him in the head a couple of times, tossed him in the back of the car, and sped away.
How do we know that?
And that drunk guy's gone. From Vidal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that drunk guy coughing?
That job
He's
for
gone.
The FBI. The guy who's, pretends to be, a homeless drunk, who's
Well, that man was a young George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah, right. That wouldn't surprise me.
Future director of the CIA.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how he got promoted.
Yeah.
They're that cough you did back in Puerto Rico?
That was an A1 cough.
Yeah. Now, no one knew where Vidal went, but people knew what happened to him. Vidal was taken to a prison where he was tortured with electric shock and waterboarded.
Enhanced interrogation.
Yeah, and that's the institutionalized PC way of saying it.
Yeah.
Friendly fire,
right?
A necessary downturn,
collateral damage.
Yep. Yeah, things like that. They asked Vidal about Albizu Campos. Vidal told him that he only cut his hair, and that they talked about the Yankees. Which is great.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, of course, they slapped him really hard in the head.
I saw him as more of a Mets fan, but what are you going to do?
Well, Yankee being a double term.
Yeah.
I was joking.
Yeah. They asked him about the guns. Tell us where the guns are. He's like, I don't know anything about guns.
He's like, do you mean the ones that you got on your hip? They're right there.
Yeah.
They're right on your hip.
Yeah, so they...
I only know about 2 guns.
Boom.
Boom,
Boom,
and
boom.
boom. I'm
Moms.
looking at my arms, folks.
Yeah. I know what you're doing.
Free tickets
Yeah.
to the gun show.
Take free. Come on.
Vidal gave them nothing, although they beat him, shocked him, and they waterboarded him to the point of unconsciousness.
It's like that scene from Grand Theft Auto 5. Y'all
Oh,
played
yeah,
that?
yeah. That's
Trevor, like,
brutal. Yeah,
Tortures that guy.
yeah.
Just for fun, really.
It's like that for weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Now, the prisons themselves, I already kind of touched on this, but the prisons themselves, both Oso Blanco and La Princesa, are hell on earth. They were fed food and drink with bugs, urine, teeth, and bits of metal in it.
Jesus Christ.
And you kind of had to starve so much that you just ignored the bugs, or you
Teeth?
ignored the teeth.
I'm talking tooth.
Tooth.
Soap.
Tooth soup.
Tooth soup.
Tooth soup.
Yeah. That's a
Tooth
deep
soup.
cut. That's a deep cut, Chris.
Shouldn't be.
Well,
It is.
yeah, it is. And one man that that Vidal met in prison, he told him a horrific story. And when I say horrific, I mean horrific. This is I'm going to give you a trigger warning. I would like you to skip this part if you have sensitivities, really at all. Like if the Ponce Massacre didn't push you over, this might. So here's a trigger warning. I'm
May
just saying this is a trigger warning. You might want to skip this.
May I pre-request a Zach palate cleanser after this?
Oh, right after this? Yes.
Okay.
Right after this, there will be a palate cleanser. Just because, whew, I hope this isn't true, but we'll see. One man told Vidal a story about a man who was in the same prison as they were, who had been starved for weeks when the prison guards presented him with a giant slab of meat. And of course, he devoured it feverishly, and the smiling guards returned after he was finished. They asked the man if he enjoyed his son. Confused, the man asked for clarification. So they presented him with his son's severed head and asked if he enjoyed eating his own son. So the man vomited and, of course, lost his mind and eventually killed himself in prison.
Fuck.
Take it away, Zach.
Okay, so my very first time going snorkeling, this was a good time. So we're on base. We're on Roosevelt Roads Naval Base because even though my dad was a Fed, we were somehow still able to get onto the whatever. So there's a beach there, and did I tell this story already about the grouper? No, I don't think I did.
No.
I've heard
No.
this story, but not
Okay.
on...
So, so this beach had like this really awesome, like rocky, outstretch, which was like really cool. And my dad's like, all right, we're gonna go snorkeling together, and we're gonna go out that way, and you're gonna see some cool shit, and you're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm like, great, awesome, cool. Go ahead, start swimming out. Everything's great. Every 5 minutes or so, he would do the tap, give me the okay sign. I give him the okay sign. He's like, all right, great, awesome. We keep on going. Pretty coral reefs and all these sea urchins and all this shit.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, I come across this giant face just staring at me.
A grouper.
It's a fucking grouper, and I am mortified. Like literally, like pissed my
Those
pants.
are,
just like
Luckily, you're in the water.
Those are some big boys.
That's
yeah.
a big boy.
completely terrified.
Like outside of like sharks and like swordfish, they're one of the biggest
Yeah, they're
fish.
fucking huge.
giant.
They are so goddamn huge.
Yeah.
So like, I'm pissing myself scared.
At least they're in the water.
And my dad just
That's what I said.
he
Oh, did
he
you?
just
Yeah,
does,
I did.
he does the tap and he's like, "You okay?" I'm like, He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "All right, cool." So we keep on swimming around or whatever, right? We go back to shore, and that's when he decided to tell me like, "So really glad that you got to see all that, and that was cool, right? I'm like, yeah, that was neat. That was a big fish, wasn't it? It's like, yeah. Not gonna lie, it's a little bit scared because those groupers are known to drown people. Like,
Oh fuck!
they will full on grab onto your arm or your leg and just
pull you.
And pull you underneath.
pull you under and just
Yeah.
drown you, even though they don't fucking eat people.
Yeah.
They're just serial killers.
Yeah, I'm just like, wait, are you?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go make burgers and hot dogs now. What do you want? I'm just like,
All of a grouper dog. You know?
Nice. Yeah.
but yes, that was the first time
That's a
I
great
went
story.
snorkeling.
And
That's a great story.
I have not heard that story. I realized when you said grouper, I was like, nope, you told me that there was a snorkeling story.
Yes.
And I was
Yeah.
like, that sounds familiar.
Yes. Yeah. So first time went snorkeling.
Groupers is some
Thank
big
you.
boys.
We needed that after that story.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to go back. Let's talk about groupers.
No, we're not talking about groupers.
Change Gears is the Grouper podcast. Grouper cast, gang.
I just looked up a picture of a grouper.
Oh
they're
my
fucking-
God.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Imagine seeing one of those fuckers at 8.
It's like a bad guy from a Jim Henson movie.
Yeah.
So it turns out something that Vidal found out in prison, like how they knew about the guns, is that the brother of a man named Diaz Pacheco.
Pacheco.
Raimundo Diaz Pacheco, he was the leader of the Nationalist Cadets of the Republic. He was like the head of the army, like Connolly in Ireland. Remember Connolly was like the military man?
Right.
This is Pacheco. He's kind of their Connolly, right?
Is he a good guy?
He's a good guy.
Okay.
Also,
Because I was about to talk some shit just
No.
for fun.
he's clearly gambling. I know they say that
Yes.
those parlors aren't gambling, but they are. You take the ball bearings right next door and you get money for them. It's gambling.
That's how we did it anyway, so we're good.
Well, his brother,
Pachenko.
no, Faustino Pacheco,
Okay.
had informed on the Nationalists.
Ah.
He told them their plans. He told them about their gun stashes. And he told them all about, everything they had planned.
Oh, I hope he gets stitches.
Yep. I was thinking the same thing.
Well,
Yeah, he's getting stitches.
I
He
was-
plays Animal Crossing and he got that weird bear.
there's a super there's a super crazy thing that happens. Like, as Vidal was being moved in a car, like an FBI car, they were going by people he knew. And he was in there, and the window was down, and he was like, oh shit, I have to tell them. So he yells out the window, Faustino Pacheco is a traitor. And they were like, oh shit. And Raimundo Diaz Pacheco was like, my own brother? It was just crushing
Right.
for them, that all their plans and everything were ruined now. And they had to move the gun storage before they could find them,
Right,
before they could
exactly.
go come and get them. They had to be moved immediately, and it was already too late for a
That
lot of them.
sucks.
Jesus.
I mean,
Yeah.
my own sister sold me out so many times, but luckily none of it was true. So
And that was
Yeah.
just caches of pornography hidden around your house.
Oh, yeah. And neighborhood.
But still, only 2 people knew about the guns in the secret hatch under Salon Barriqua. And those 2 people were Vidal and Albizu. Those people weren't going to tell nobody.
Yeah, they ain't snitches.
No.
They're not even gonna get stitches. They'll probably get Marshall or Raymond.
Yeah.
So it all started on October 28th, 1950, when there was an organized prison break to cause havoc within the insular police force. Murderers and legit criminals, and the majority of them being nationalists, but there was a serial killer among them that was their
You could
spearhead.
be a serial killer and a nationalist.
So we're talking about.
Right, this is true.
I think that's. Yes. Yeah.
But they killed guards, grabbed the guns, and now they're running all over. And it was meant to throw them in disarray. And the next couple of days they were supposed to start all at the same time and cause havoc.
Right.
This sounds like a Batman story.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say this is like when everyone breaks
Like
out of Arkham.
Zaz.
Yeah.
Whammy Mataz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snake sparrows.
That guy's name was Correa Coto. He was a serial killer.
Interesting.
But nothing was coordinated, however. They couldn't really communicate with each other as well as they had hoped.
It's like Seinfeld. They
so-
didn't have cell phones.
Yeah. So things in certain areas started too early, and things in other areas started a little too late.
Right.
You know, so either they caught them by surprise and they were able to overwhelm them before they were able to respond to other things that were starting too late. And by the time those things were starting too late, they already knew something was going to happen, and they had like snipers posted and stuff, and it was not going to work.
Right.
So some things were a little bit more successful than others.
They couldn't quite like do the trickery. I'm here, I'm there kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need Lafayette.
Or Ho Chi Minh.
There you go.
That's another story for a different day.
So is Lafayette.
Yeah. On October 30th, 1950, the plan of the uprising really came to fruition. Took place in several towns across the island. The main ones being... Now, Zach, you may have to help me.
I mean, I got.
That's not-
I
that's
need to
not-
look at it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We got the Penuelas,
Pendejo.
Mayaguez, Guez, Mayaguez. I don't know. Naranjito, Arecibo, Ponce, Hurtado, Uaya,
Uaya?
and San Juan.
San Juan.
Yeah.
Yes.
San Juan.
I know, I've been to those islands.
Yeah.
Those aren't islands. Those are all cities.
Those
Oh, no,
are all
I'm talking
cities.
about...
Those are all cities on the
Washington
island.
State, they are islands.
Yes, the San Juan Islands.
The
yes.
San Juans.
The San Juans.
My wife's... my father-in-law lives on Orcas.
There you go.
Hit him up, gang. You know, he'll probably give you some food. He's a cool
there you
guy.
go.
I'm not telling you his name.
I'm surprised that like Fajardo and Ceiba and Hio, places that I was running around in, weren't
Well, I'm
involved.
sure that they were still heavily occupied by the United States.
Sure.
Even in this time. The National Guard was called in, and J. Edgar Hoover urged Luis Munoz Marin to declare martial law so they could make arrests that were, quote, long overdue, end quote.
And while he did that, he was wearing a very
Yes.
respectful pantsuit.
Sequined. That's not, is that respectful? I don't know.
I mean, considering usually he's in a full ball gown or...
Oh, we're
I
talking
mean,
about J. Edna?
At one point,
J. Edna.
I'm pretty sure he's given orders in a bikini. So
Oh, yeah.
But
again, nothing wrong with that. Everything else about that fucking asshole.
So Marin refused to issue martial law. Now, Raimundo Diaz Pacheco, ashamed of his brother's actions, he and 4 others, they dressed in their Sunday best, full suits and ties. They got in a car, and they drove to the governor's mansion, La Fortaleza, in San Juan, Old San Juan. And it was a suicide mission. Their plan was to rush inside, and if they could, assassinate Marin and get the world's attention about what was happening in Puerto Rico. But the problem was everybody already knew about it.
Fuck.
Snipers were placed all over the mansion, and the guard detail was totally beefed up, and they saw him coming. The driver was the first one killed with a gunshot to the head.
that's a good sniper.
It is. The others in the
couldn't do
car
that.
bailed out, and they were like firing in all directions. A few were killed almost immediately. Jaco himself, he took his submachine gun, fired bullets at the windows above him, and like ran to safety. He was killed as well in a hail of gunfire. But one of those bullets that he fired came up through into the room that Marin was in, and he like ran and pissed himself and ducked for cover, and he's like, I'm declaring martial law. And they're like, thought you didn't want to declare martial law. And he's like, well, I'm doing it now. One
you got a
bullet came
bullet
close
in
to
my
me.
office, so-
Yeah, one came close to me. So it's martial law now.
They pissed in God's eye, and I blinked.
Right, yeah.
French brothers.
So along with Pacheco, Domingo Geraldo Resto, Carlos Geraldo Resto, Manuel Torres Medina were all killed in the attempt. The only survivor, he hid underneath the car and he was severely wounded. He was arrested and sent to La Princesa.
And that was my great grandfather.
No, because your great-grandfather wouldn't have even gone on this mission.
I know, but he hid underneath a car, so...
Dude, this guy jumped out of a car, was shot several times, rolled underneath it, and then survived the melee until they pulled him out from underneath the car.
That's slightly more brave than...
That's very
would
brave.
have
That's
done.
extremely
He
brave.
was the black sheep of the Armentrout family for being so brave.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not brave in this family.
Yeah, we sent him to Puerto Rico.
I'm not saying that the Whedons are fucking brave.
Yeah. Some nationalists were shot out of houses until they surrendered.
Fired out of houses?
We've been over this, Tyler. They were in a house and then shot at until they came out,
Okay.
dead or otherwise,
Wait, we've been over that?
in 1916.
That's the second time Tyler said that?
The
I don't remember
Easter
that.
Rising, yeah. Shot
Yes.
out of the post office,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
They were shot out of the post office.
Like, rocketed out? No.
Elton John was playing in the background.
I can
Rugged
only
man.
promise our viewers 10% new material every other week. There's going to be some recycled jokes.
Well, you know, comic persona.
They were actually told, some of them were told, like, if you come out, you'll receive no harm. So they were like, shit, we have a couple of dead guys in here. One of them, in one instance, he was an 18-year-old kid firing an M1 Garand at these cops and just, like, crying. And so they were like, all right, let's go to prison, basically.
Right.
And so they surrendered, and they took everything off of them, like, took their belts and their shoes, and, they walked down the street, holding up their pants and shit.
Right.
And instead of being arrested, though, they were actually ushered into a side alleyway.
Execution. Yeah.
And a Browning machine gun cut them all down. Like, and cut them all down. One guy, it just hit his legs and just tore his legs to ribbons.
Ugh.
And he was bleeding to death, and he was begging for water. Because, when you're bleeding to death, you get dehydrated, right? You're losing all the water in you,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I wouldn't know because I
So-
haven't bled to death, but
That
But
makes sense.
it's a constant.
That makes sense.
I had
It's a
food
symptom.
poisoning where
It's a symptom.
I'm just constantly shitting diarrhea and I've gotten dehydrated.
Yeah.
Imagine it's
It's
the same.
worse.
You're right.
One of the
poisoning's worse.
soldiers, as this man is begging for water and bleeding to death and dying,
right.
said, "You want water?" and then bayoneted him. And they walked around just shooting the survivors and bayoneting the rest. These are National Guardsmen. People opened up their windows, saw what was happening, and said, "Murderers, criminals," and they were like, "Mind your own business," and like shot bullets up at them
Jesus
so they would close
fuck.
their windows. This is, in my mind, this is a war crime.
Fucking duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mind carries the same through line of logic that most people's should.
Yeah.
That's war crime.
Well, and one man, kind of doing the same thing from Ponce, he was writing asesinos in his own blood in the alleyway.
Right.
And they came over, saw him doing it, and shot him, and then like kicked the message and like erased it with their feet.
Jeez.
Like messed it up with their feet. Mm-hmm. Infuriating. If you're not, again, if you're not pissed off by this story, there is something severely wrong with you. Severely
I
wrong
am so
with
pissed
you.
off. I do want to say that I'm like normally
Yeah.
like a 6 pissed off all the time. This puts
Yeah.
me at a solid 9.
Yeah.
I'd be at a 10.
If you're throwing like legitimately like in a rage.
But I'm trying to record a podcast and I'm destroying all of the audio equipment in the room if I was at a 10. So I'm trying to hold it back.
Well, they do it.
Yeah, please don't break my mics.
I said I was doing my best, Zach.
How are we supposed to keep people outraged when you're breaking all the mics, Chris?
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Albizu himself was holed up in his house with several others, and he was besieged by insular police and National Guardsmen who were shooting through his windows and hit one woman that was in Albizu's house in the throat.
Fuck.
And they had to actually, 2 of them took her outside so she could get medical help, and they were all arrested. Albizu was stuck inside for a couple of days with no water, no power, and they tried to parlay with him, and every time he would like kind of like come out to talk, they would like boom, 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 and like shoot at him again.
These fucking
That's not
cowards.
how parlay works. I've
I
seen
know.
Pirates of the
I
Caribbean.
know.
Please come out. We promise not to shoot at you this time.
Yeah.
Like, well, if you promise.
Yeah.
That's a fool me once. Shame on you.
Fool me twice. You ain't gonna fool me again. Meanwhile, 5,000 National Guard troops were mobilized, along with, get this, P-47 Thunderbolt fighter planes that bombed the towns of Hayuya and Utuado and strafed the countryside with 50 caliber bullets.
Jeez.
The only time in United States history that the United States has bombed their own citizens.
Wow.
Bombed. This is the United States military calling in United States military planes.
This isn't cops with their like police helicopters.
This isn't nearby airports
Right.
that have planes dropping Molotov cocktails.
Right.
Well, they shouldn't have been protesting on the freeway.
Yeah, this is United States military planes dropping post-World War II bombs on these two cities. Atrocious. At Salon Barriqua, Vidal was there. He just recently was released. He's honestly bandaging up some wounds he sustained in prison from cigarette burns that they'd put out on his skin. And he was listening to the events unfolding over the radio, completely alone, because people that tried to come in were arrested. Mm-hmm. So he was just there alone. He found a bottle of rum underneath the shoe shine stand. And he listened to the radio all night and drank the whole bottle. And
Been there. At least
yeah.
the drinking the whole bottle part. The
Yeah.
rest of it,
Yeah.
I have not really experienced.
He woke up early the next morning with a brutal hangover, but to the sounds of engines. And there were all these cars and military trucks that were appearing in front of Salon Barriqua. And he was like, oh shit, it's on. And no one knows about the pile of guns and bullets that are literally underneath me right now. So what he does, so no one can hear him, is he turns up the radio all the way. He goes into the bathroom, opens the hatch, pulls out all the guns and bullets and shit, and stashes them around the place. Now, this is a 2-story place. There's an apartment above.
Right.
So, like, he stashed some Molotovs and some shotguns and, like, machine guns and, like, ammunition in these places. Strategic places.
Right. It's this whole, this is my last stand.
Yeah. He keeps kind of peeking out, and he notices that they're just kind of standing around and chatting, and he's like, A cop comes in with his pistol drawn.
Uh-huh.
And he's looking around, with this pistol. And Vidal in the back of the room goes, "Can I help you?" And when the cop kind of turns, Vidal raises his .45 and shoots at him.
Nice.
And it blows his hat off.
Fuck yeah.
And the cop stumbles and falls out of the door and runs to safety.
I bet that
second-
cop is played by what's his name from
Our
John
good
Candy.
Benny
Okay.
Hill is what I was going to say.
yeah.
Oh, Benny Hill.
Our good friend
Andy
Jack
Griffith
Black.
show. The
Gomer Pyle? What were you saying?
Oh, I was saying our good friend Jack Black, but you were saying Don Knotts.
Don
Knotts.
Knotts. Not Gomer Pyle. Don Knotts. Yeah.
I meant to be like, oh,
Whoa!
The
And as soon
ostriches
as-
are back.
Yeah. As soon as the guy stumbles out, Vidal picks up his submachine gun and just empties a clip out the window, just
Rambo
and like
style.
shoots his own lights so they can't see in.
Nice.
They're all like, oh shit, and then they like start shooting at him, and like he's like hiding. Like there's one big pillar in the barbershop that is just thick marble. Like no bullets are gonna go behind this. So like he's there, he's listening to the radio the whole time, and the song by Eileen Barton, it's called "If I Knew You Were Coming, I Would Have Baked You a Cake." Is the name of the song.
Are you shitting me?
No. And he thought it was the funniest thing he's ever heard. So again, it's full blast. This song is playing. Full blast it's playing. And he's like running upstairs and he's tossing Molotovs down on their cars. They're scattering. They're calling in reinforcements. There's a bunch of insular police and National Guardsmen outside, and they're showing up with like
sounds like a
machine guns and rockets
Tarantino
and stuff.
movie.
Tarantino or
Yeah.
Kubrick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone's finding out about this. So like the media arrives and there's a media frenzy. He's on every channel.
Right.
You know, everybody's hearing about this. Even Albizu's hearing about this. Everybody's hearing about this. About this battle that is happening at Salon Barriqua. So a negotiator like called for a ceasefire, like stop. And he goes, "Hey, Vidal." And he's like, "What?" And he goes, I think this is a term of endearment, but he goes, "It's me, BB. How are you?" And Vidal goes, "I'm all fucked up." Because he's been hit at least once.
He's been hit. He's hung
He's
over.
been hit at least once, yeah.
Pain don't hurt.
And the guy calls up, he goes, "You're famous, all the radio stations are here." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm listening to the radio too, but all I can get is American crap." Because he's listening to NBC. Yeah. He's listening to NBC, and so like he has to sit through commercials while the shit is going
my
on.
God.
And,
This would make a great movie.
it would. So he goes, "Do you need anything?" And Vidal goes, "Yeah, a ticket to Cuba." And the guy goes, "Well, maybe that can be arranged." And he starts to say, "How many of you are there inside?" But before he can get that out, they just start shooting again. So like again, it was like you tried to negotiate and just start shooting. Right? That's what they were doing. At this point, Vidal was hit several times. He was bleeding very badly, but he had a lot of bullets. Like he wasn't running out anytime soon. This was meant to arm a few people. Mm-hmm. He's alone, right?
Well, he's got two hands.
Yep.
I do like that they were like, "How many of there are you?"
Oh, the whole time they're like, honestly, they're making bets outside as to how many people they think there are. They think there's 20 to 30 to even 40 people inside.
Holy shit.
They think there's at least 20 people inside.
But it's just fucking Rambo in there.
It's fucking Vidal. That's it. It's this skinny, small barber inside. That's all there is.
With a bunch of guns.
With a bunch of fucking guns. Yeah.
I like to think of Vidal as your stereotypical, very flamboyant hairdresser, and I can just
He wasn't.
I like to imagine him though.
I think that would be
Like,
better.
It would be hilarious.
Like
It'd be great.
Being super hungover, like wearing like the most extravagant shirts where like the buttons are all the way unbuttoned until like his
With perfect coiffed hair.
perfect coiffed hair, but he's just
Even
hung
hungover.
the fuck over, and
Yeah.
he's like,
Not
not
taking the
today,
shit."
sister.
I love it.
Also, he had to have been like, "It's time to give these guys a haircut."
Oh, totally. It's gonna take a little off the top.
So he went to the radio, which had actually been shot a few times, but still worked.
Things were built better back then.
Yeah, and
Built to last.
he fucked with the dial until he could find something good or better than NBC.
Right.
So he actually found a radio station that was broadcasting a speech from Albizu Campos,
Cool.
and he cranked it.
Fuck yeah.
And he cranked it and just like boom, 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 boom. And like he at one point he even like started singing along with a song that was being played and like punctuating like the chorus and like the verses with gunshots.
Cool. Imagine it was a Biggie song.
Yeah. Give me the loot. So yeah, they traded fire. This went on for about 3 hours. Towards the end, a police captain, he grabbed a bullhorn and he shouted through the bullhorn. He goes, "Vidal Santiago, we don't want to hurt you." Vidal said, "Tell that to my leg, pendejo." You shot it pretty good. And he says, you and your friends come out with your hands up and no one will harm you. Vidal says, I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
The police said, what you do have is 1 minute. Come out or we're coming in. Right after that, Vidal tossed 3 Molotov cocktails out of the top floor
I
onto
love
them.
him so much.
So, the National Guard opened fire with everything they had. They unleashed all their machine guns at once on the place, even firing their rockets and bazookas that they had at him.
Jesus.
Everything they had at him. And when the smoke cleared, the building was a mess. Like, the staircase had completely collapsed.
Sure.
And the National Guardsmen approached it, you know, it's kind of clearing, they're trying to be quiet, and their guns are drawn, and they're terrified.
We have no idea how many are in here.
And they're looking around in the rubble, and they're like, where is everybody? Where are they? And they're like, check for a back door, see if they escaped through a back door that we didn't know about. And they searched the place thoroughly. Didn't find shit. And then one soldier goes, wait a minute. And he, like, under the rubble was Vidal. Dead. Riddled with bullets.
Fuck.
He had a bunch of missing fingers.
They, like, shot him off?
Yeah, shot off. Like, his
Wow.
thumb was shot off. Several fingers were shot off. And the dude's laying there dead.
He must have been riddled.
Riddled with bullets.
Wow.
And to make for certain, the guy that found him put a bullet in his head at point blank range. Just pop. And they were dragging him out. There's a picture of them dragging him out. Like a big
Jesus.
fish or something. They're smiling. But to everyone else, doesn't look good.
Yeah.
They have all these National Guardsmen shooting rockets into this place, and you pull out one skinny barber. One skinny barber against all you guys. You're supposed to protect all of us, you know? And they pull him out, and his eyes come open. And they drop him, and they're terrified, and they even run for cover. What? They even run for cover. They even said, I thought you shot him. And they go, pop, again. He wasn't alive. His eyes were just
His
open.
eyes
Yeah,
were open, yeah.
you know.
Eh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like the last act, like last shot of a movie where the villain to these guys,
Yeah, yeah.
the eyes
Yeah.
come open. Yeah.
Dun. Yeah, it didn't look good. Didn't look good at all for him. But, and to this day, you know, Vidal Santiago Diaz is a hero in Puerto Rico and should be remembered as such.
So badass.
He's an incredible badass.
I hope in our movie version that I'm gonna make this reference again. Pet Shop Boys is playing. Just it's a sin. Just blasting on the radio while he's doing this gunfight. Perfect.
I like the idea of old-timey, like, music from the early 50s, like 1950, 40s music playing.
Sure.
As you're just like...
How much is that dog,
Dog
in
yeah.
the window?
Mr. Sandman. Yeah.
Sure.
I like the idea of like Biggie. So
Right. No, I also like that idea. Their uprising had failed. Albizu Campos had to surrender eventually. And he was taken in. He was actually sentenced to 80 years in prison
ugh.
for his insurrection. Yeah, he would serve that time in these horrible prisons. He was kind of moved around a few times, but in La Princesa, he was put always in solitary. He never had a cellie. He never had visitors, or very few, because there was only an approved list of visitors that he could have.
So is he almost never around anybody?
Almost never around
Like,
anybody except for guards.
Like the Count of Monte Cristo?
Yes. Yes, honestly, exactly like that, only think smaller cell. Because for 26 years, he paced back and forth in his cell. And it was 5 paces each way. And he knew he had to stay, I mean, he didn't want his muscles to atrophy. So
Right,
he paced for 26 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, turn. 26 years, walking back and forth. Back and forth. And one day, he noticed there's these lights in his cell that he couldn't really explain. It looked like the Aurora Borealis. And he got really bad headaches. And he got really hot. And then they went away. And he got really, really bad headaches. And he's like, they're doing something to me in here. And like the prison guards didn't know anything about it.
Right.
You know? So after a while though, he's like, I'm getting horrible headaches and I'm getting burns all over my body. And what he would do is he would wrap himself in wet towels to alleviate the burns that he was developing. And there's actually a picture of him later on with his pants rolled up. And you can see how swollen, massively swollen and awful his legs and feet are. Totally burnt, totally awful. Like, how could you possibly walk with feet that are ballooned out like this?
Were they microwaving the motherfucker?
There were radiation burns.
Jesus, no fucking way.
They were testing radiation on him. This was a new thing. They were testing the effects of radiation on him. And everyone thought he was crazy. His prison guards called him the King of Towels. Because he walked around with towels all over.
The prison guards honestly not know about this?
They did not know about it. No, it was higher-ups. It was higher-ups that knew about it. And
Fuck.
It was all kept a secret, and people called him crazy. The guards called him crazy. They called it, again, King of Towels. Everyone called him crazy, including Luis Munoz Marin, who not only called Pedro Albizu Campos crazy, but, that he had always been crazy, and that the whole idea of an independence movement had been crazy from the get-go. And that their brave leader had been crazy this entire time. And so the misinformation campaign starts. I mean, it started beforehand, but the one that continues today starts here. And he was actually because there was outrage. He was pardoned in 1953 by Marin, but he was only allowed to leave for a year. The reason for this, actually November 1st, 1950, days after the rebellion, Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torresola attacked a place called Blair House in Washington, D.C. It's across the street from the White House. And the thing was, President Truman was renovating the White House at this time, and he was staying at Blair House. And these guys, again, wore their Sunday best. They came with guns to assassinate President Truman, to, again, bring attention towards Puerto Rico.
Right.
One guy, before he could do anything, his gun jammed.
Fuck.
And he had to cock it, before he could actually get out a shot. One Secret Service man was killed, and one of the conspirators was killed. The other was wounded, and he was put on trial, to which he was sentenced to death. And Truman actually commuted that to life in prison. He actually, because of this instance, he didn't run for a second term because he didn't know what to do about the Puerto Rican question in Truman's own mind. When this happened on October 30th, days earlier, Truman released a statement saying that this was all a matter, it was just a little matter that was something between Puerto Ricans. It wasn't what it
Not to
was,
them.
which was a war against one country versus another country.
Right.
And that's what it was. And that's why they went there to shoot him, right? Truman even peeked his head out to see what was happening.
Right.
And one of them was reloading his gun and gonna pop him.
Right.
Before the dying Secret Service agent shot him. We're gonna go into more depth into this when we do our Truman episode.
Sure.
It was an assassination attempt. The life in prison sentence later was commuted because of the reasoning. But one thing that no one mentioned, there's a lot of things that none of the papers mentioned when this happened. None of them mentioned that they were wearing socks that were red and green, which were the colors of Uyea, the hometown of these guys, which 24 hours ago was bombed and strafed by these jets, and a place that they had grown up in, where their families still resided.
Right.
And they're remembered as these crazy assassins, but no one remembers them as somebody that was desperate, looking to do the best they could do with what they had.
Right.
Right.
So now things are starting to come a lot together with when I was there, which we could talk about after.
Well, real quick, Albizu was released in 1953, but quickly was locked up again because in 1954 there was another group of Puerto Rican nationalists led by Lolita Lebron, and what they did is they went into the Capitol building in Washington D.C. and unfurled a Puerto Rican flag and opened fire again to bring attention to Puerto Rico.
Right.
So Albizu was thrown back into prison.
Did he have anything to do with it?
No, but they,
But
it's
because
him. He's the
He's a
leader.
symbol.
Yeah. So they tossed him back
matter.
It's Puerto Rican Batman.
in. Yeah. When I say that Albizu was tested on with radiation, this is not a conspiratorial thing. A lot of people during this time and until about 2002, when they released all these FBI files that made all this stuff public.
Right.
And actually, the person that exposed all of it, that like blew the lid off the whole thing, she won the Nobel Peace Prize that year, and
Because of this.
yeah, and exposed it on the floor of the United Nations, and the United States had to formally admit that they were testing radiation on their prisoners.
Wow.
Yeah, because the prison guards, again, they didn't know. So what they did is they would put other prisoners in Albizu's cell, and of course they would start to complain about headaches and burns.
Yeah.
And then they would switch them out. You know, they thought that Albizu was in their ear or something. You know, and there were few pictures of Albizu during this time, and every time he has to be carried places. He's very frail. He doesn't look good.
Because they're blasting him with radiation.
Yes, yes.
That wouldn't look good if you put me in a microwave. I don't look good now.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a radiologist who worked at the Cuban Cancer Association, and she examined him. She found these three things to be totally true. That the sores on Albizu Campos were produced by radiation. Number two, that his symptoms corresponded to those of a person who had received intense radiation. And number three, that wrapping himself in the wet towels was the best way to diminish the intensity of the rays and alleviate the pain.
Wow.
So, he was
that's
not
proof.
crazy.
He was vindicated.
He was not crazy. Well, too little, too late.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yes. In 1956, Albizu suffered a stroke. He was transferred to San Juan's Presbyterian Hospital, the same one that Dr. Cornelius Rhodes worked at. Not now, but
Right.
had previously worked at. On November 15th, 1964, on the brink of death, Pedro Albizu Campos was pardoned by Luis Munoz Marin,
Oh, good.
but he died on April 21st,
Was that sarcastic? Oh, good. I just want to put that out there.
1965. Yeah.
Like too little, too late kind of
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah, April 21st, 1965. His funeral procession, more than 75,000 Puerto Ricans were a part of that. Part of his funeral procession that day.
Wow.
All of these things are still going on today. The idea of independence has never really been as popular as it was during Albizu's time.
Is statehood more popular now?
It is. Statehood is like the establishment Democrat kind of way of
Okay.
looking at things. There's people that are more conservative that want to remain a commonwealth. There's people that want to be like a sovereign state,
Yeah,
but
right.
it's like Guam, right? Like Guam, but not Guam. Anyway,
just,
but it's not explained well. Like if you read their ballots when they vote, they have a question. It's, do you think something should change from where it is right now? Do you think something should change? Yes or no? You know, And you answer that, and whether or not you answer that, you proceed to the next one, right? You can vote for independence, statehood, commonwealth, or this sort of sovereign state, right?
So they split everything up enough that nothing ever changes?
But there's only a paragraph that describes each one. Nothing describes the implication of each one, right? None of them do. It's a paragraph that describes it. How can you possibly be informed and pick it?
Yeah.
So, an overwhelming number of people picked statehood. And so they go, oh, statehood. Is 41% of people said statehood. Without ever looking to see how many people left that question blank. Which was the majority of people left it blank.
Okay.
They just didn't say anything. They said, yes, it should change, but they don't know which one to change it to. Because the propaganda machine has been so hard this entire time that literally after 1950 till now, it's just been the United States is great. Albizu Campos, try to forget about him.
She's a grand old flag. She's a flying flag.
But they did repeal Law 53, so that's good. Independence isn't popular. Well, I think only 17% of people voted for independence. This is the last vote they had.
It's kind of a dangerous road to go. I mean,
it's
a tricky road to go down.
Yes, because they've always been under the thumb of a different country. But my point is, I agree with Pedro Albizu Campos in that I have faith in the Puerto Rican people to govern themselves. The welfare state that is there, and the one cash crop economy that is there that is completely beholden to the United States was created by the United States.
Right.
Those crops and all of that could easily be switched over to a more subsistence crop farming.
But they can't do it because the United States have control.
Well, they have
that?
their thumbs all over it. And actually, they have more per capita Walmarts, Walgreens, parking lots, and things like that in Puerto Rico than they do anywhere else in the United States.
They paved paradise. Put up
a parking lot.
Did I talk about that in the last episode? How I heard that song every day when I worked at Albertsons?
No, but I mentioned it. I said, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
And I heard various covers of it, because I feel like Albertsons got a deal.
Yeah.
With, like, you buy the original, we'll give you 3 covers of the same fucking song.
Yeah.
Right.
And I hated it so much.
But that's what that song's about.
Yeah, it makes me feel bad for hating it. But
I don't like that song, but I agree with the sentiment.
Was working at Albertsons.
Yeah.
And I leave that in the episode.
But, there are independistas to this day that want independence from America or the United States because, they're like nothing against, the United States. It's just that we are not Americans. We will never be Americans.
Right.
You know what I mean? We are a different country, So
I feel that is their choice to... As somebody who really knows only anything about this story from what you just told me in the last 2 episodes, like, I don't feel it's right for me to have an opinion. Does that make sense? Like,
sure. Well,
I feel what my opinion should be the Puerto Rican people to make that decision.
Oh, I agree, and that goes to another point that I'm going to make. My personal beliefs, it doesn't really matter, and honestly, they can vote all day, every day, and it won't matter until the United States decides to do something.
So the votes, it doesn't fucking matter.
I personally, and my personal values, my personal opinions carry no weight here, but I personally feel that the United States needs to let go of its last colony.
Well, what I think...
And it still is a colony.
Right.
What I feel isn't so much that, I feel they should be independent, be a statehood, whatever. What I feel is that their vote should mean something.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
They don't have a vote.
That's what's important to me.
They don't have a vote.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, like, all our votes should mean something. You know?
And they're American citizens. So much shit is fucked. The Jones Act. The only person talked about even repealing even just segments of the Jones Act to where it didn't have to be American boats that came to Puerto Rico. Like, even just repealing that part, the only person that talked about that was Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm letting politics seep in here, but that's the only person who said anything about it. So,
like we said, we're not objective on History Boys.
No, we're not.
No,
We're not an objective show here.
Not even at all. But
You listen to the wrong show. There's a billion fucking.
There's a billion history shows. There's a lot of
very
shows
informative.
that will
great.
agree. Will agree with your sentiment.
Yeah.
Go listen to those.
If you just want the facts, there's 1,000 of those too.
Yeah, we have color commentary.
Zingity ding.
Look, like for me, what is just baffling because I didn't know about the planes, the 2 jets that were just. Or
It was
several jets like blowing shit up and
bombing
bombing and strafing towns. No wonder the Puerto Rican people were so fucking pissed at the Roosevelt Roads naval base using Vieques as a fucking bombing range.
Yes, so we had mentioned this beforehand, but yeah, the man that jumped over the fence and deliberately got blown up, basically, because I think the United States drops a staggering amount of bombs on that island all the time per year, like millions of pounds of bombs on this island.
Well, at least it did when the base was still around, but they closed it down in
they closed it because of this outrage.
Right.
But yeah, it was a protest. It was like the Buddhist monk, the self-immolation. It was he knew full well he was going to get blown up, but that's not how it was portrayed in the media.
Right.
It was portrayed that some idiot climbed the fence and got blown up, even though it said don't do it.
Until you describe it that way, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
But now I think I do.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's how it was portrayed.
Did you live there at the time?
I lived there during the protests, man. I think I mentioned it on the last episode.
No, you did. I mean, yeah.
Where, like, literally being on the bus to get onto the base, and there's hundreds of people screaming and protesting and throwing bricks and bottles and shit at both the gate guards and, these kids on a fucking bus.
Right.
Like, talk about terrifying. It's just...
Yeah.
A very...
Rioting is the language of the unheard.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. It was just such an eye-opening, crazy experience for me. And then hearing, of course, the people that were, servicemen and women who were stationed on Puerto Rico, hanging out with my parents and, hanging out with their kids and stuff, putting all the blame on Sila, who was the governor at the time. Because Sila her whole thing was trying to get corruption out of Puerto Rican government, and a lot of that corruption happened to be in part of the United States.
That corruption has always been there since the beginning.
Right.
And it will never stop until they are independent.
Right, but I think it's worth mentioning that Sila, in particular, she was one of the voices that was trying to champion for independence.
That's great. That's great.
I mean, nothing fucking happened of it other than a crazy guy busting into the governor mansion and holding a secretary hostage at knife point.
Holy shit.
Well, see, was he crazy, or is this
crazy like a fox?
Now I'm wondering about that.
Crazy,
Albizu Campos thing, where like he's crazy. It's like, was he?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember that guy a few years ago jumped and ran across the fucking White House lawn?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like,
well, he set himself on fire too.
that guy did?
There was a guy that self-immolated himself on the White House lawn.
Like just a few years ago?
Yeah.
During the Obama administration?
No, during the Trump administration.
I think the guy I'm thinking about was Obama.
Well, this guy was a couple of years ago. It was during the Trump administration. Set himself on fire.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not pretty. You can Google it. It's a picture I wish I'd never seen, but one I'm glad I've seen.
Right.
Governments are fucking up. We should leave everything to the corporations.
No.
I'm kidding.
Welcome to Seattle. How can I take your order?
People in power are the problem.
Yes.
There needs to be transparency.
Money out of politics.
Agreed.
Money out of politics.
Yeah,
I know that's destroying like the fabric of our society if we were to do that.
Oh, our
money and religion out of politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel that's necessary, but I also feel that's
Impossible.
chipping away at the
impossible.
fucking
Exactly,
foundation of our government.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can happen
It won't. It can't happen.
without.
We don't live in
Revolution.
an ideal society. We don't.
No. So that explosion in Beirut, huh? That's fucked up. Also, the government's problem.
Welcome to the fucked up stuff happening everywhere podcast.
It's a history podcast. That's what it is.
This is true.
I have a friend who lives in Beirut, well, an
Are they
acquaintance.
safe?
Yeah.
good.
I messaged them, but and they're an acquaintance. But still, I was like, shit, that's where blank is. I don't.
Right.
We're not close
Don't
enough
put
that
them
I'm
on blast,
comfortable saying who they are on. If you know me personally, you might know who I'm talking about. But yeah, I listened to read a blog that they wrote recently about the experience, and it's fucking harrowing. And it really is just, there was a bunch of shit, and I'm regurgitating information here, folks, so I'm going to give you the broad details, but there's a bunch of shit in that fucking warehouse that people were like, this is a problem, we shouldn't have it here, and the government just kept letting it go until it fucking exploded. And that's really fucking how it happened.
Yeah, I heard that they didn't want it there for a long time. I want to say one more time, the main source, these 2 episodes,
Right.
There's several, but the main source is a book called The War Against All Puerto Ricans by Nelson Dennis, or Denny, Denis.
Like Saint-Denis.
But it is an amazing book. I think it should be required reading. His sources, if you look at the end of his book, his sources are government files, FBI files, unclassified files. You know, when the
Wow.
Freedom of Information
Yeah.
Act came out, they found all of these. They found out that the FBI was keeping files on like thousands of just normal people in Puerto Rico. Thousands of normal people in Puerto Rico.
Good thing that's not happening now.
Yeah,
Those agents were actually routinely let go and immediately joined the Church of Scientology, where they collect information on regular old people to this day.
Yeah.
Since the last time we recorded, I watched Hamilton based off Tyler's recommendation. I just want to say, like, whatever criticisms you have of that show, that podcast, or fucking podcast, that play, you know, maybe it points slave owners into fairer light. That is totally fair thing to say. I just want to say, like, watching it after listening to the previous one, I was like, I get Lin-Manuel, who's Puerto Rican. I was like, I kind of get how he likes this story of like growing up and understanding. He grew up in, I believe, New York, but both his parents are Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
I was like, I kind of see how he connects Hamilton to that, and then wants to put Hamilton in a positive light, if that makes sense.
I like his idea of like retaking American history in this way. You know,
I get that
so
too.
for that
I'm just
reason, I
saying,
like it. Yeah.
The idea of like retaking American history for people of color, you know, that's kind of why I like to play.
Sure,
but
sure.
outside of that, I think the reason when he read Hamilton, the book about Hamilton,
The Bob Woodward book about
is that
Hamilton?
the one I don't remember?
No. Anyway.
I feel that reading his story, he had to have made a connection, because I saw it after and I was like, I totally see this, like this thing about revolution, this thing about like Campos being one of the smartest people.
Yeah.
At
Well,
Harvard,
the thing
like-
is in predominantly black neighborhoods and Puerto Rican neighborhoods, there are schools named after Pedro Albizu Campos.
Yeah.
There are libraries named after Pedro Albizu Campos in the mainland United States. There
Yeah.
are. Only people growing up in those communities know about his story,
Yeah, I didn't.
and not enough do.
I would imagine
anybody does.
that Lin-Manuel Miranda knows about this
Oh,
story.
yeah.
And I
certainly
also
did.
feel that
Yeah.
what he's trying to say in Hamilton is more about, and I know this is in the Hamilton podcast, just connecting it to this story is
The
more about
Hamilcast.
is more about like this a story of revolution, the idea of revolution, the idea of taking something back for yourself, and by turning the story about the founding fathers, we're all complicit in the sin of slavery, and
Yes.
he
Including
fully
Hamilton.
admits that.
Yeah.
He does kind of let Hamilton off a little bit, but I think that the story probably wouldn't work if he was like, I hate slavery, but I bought some slaves for my in-laws. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you
I made a buck off of it.
yeah,
So.
I think part of his influence for the story was probably him growing up in Puerto Rico, because I definitely
Sure.
see similarities. I mean,
Sure.
Hamilton himself was from an island in the Caribbean.
Bahamas?
Yeah.
Bahamas?
I don't remember. There was a
He
specific
grew
island.
up. He grew up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
I forget when we do.
They talk about him being a foreigner all the time.
Yeah.
In the
Even
play,
though he's English.
but he's very white.
yeah, he's English.
Well, if he wasn't white,
No.
like he wouldn't be on our $10 bill.
no.
You know.
It'd mess up the printers.
That's the only reason they haven't changed the 20 yet to Harriet Tubman.
They're like, how do we do it with darker ink, guys? We didn't think about this beforehand. Because that's my guy who.
But we
runs
gotta
the
get
printer
Jackson
set
off
to
that
you.
fucking 20. Come on.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Jesus fucking
No more
Christ.
Andrew Jackson on
Throw
there,
Hitler on the
please.
50. Why not? Same thing.
Yeah. Well, and get Grant off the 50 for God's sakes.
Yeah. I mean,
The most corrupt president we've ever had, bar none.
put Trump on the 50.
Well, it would be
The
you
most
know,
corrupt president we ever had.
Swapping apples for apples at that point.
I don't know.
What a story. Ugh.
Put civil rights leaders on our fucking money.
Yeah, honestly.
You know?
Agreed.
I'm just
Put
this
John
whole,
Lewis on our money.
Chris, those are all excellent ideas. Okay, I am. This episode has me emotionally exhausted.
Well, it's because you're weak
I am weak
emotionally.
and physically.
I'm only weak physically. I have the passion at all times.
That's fair enough. Well, then maybe you should do the sign off.
I could, yeah. We are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon, the most famous person of the History Boys. An A1 celebrity, and you guys are all lucky to hang out with me.
I'm Tyler Armentrout, regular old emotionally exhausted dude. You know, and that's all I got this week.
All right.
This episode burned you out.
Yeah.
It
really-
gave me the passion. I'm
It
like,
really torched Tyler.
I'm Zach Meck. I am also a history boy. I think I'm still feeling my hangover from my 30th birthday.
yeah, I'm feeling my hangover from your 30th birthday.
Woof. Too much whiskey. Yes. Thanks for Thanks, guys.
And I am Jerry Nash. I am also a history boy. Thank you again, as always, so much for listening to our show. We really appreciate all of you out there. And if you want to send us an email with a suggestion or to just reach out and say hello, that's awesome. Our email address is historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You know, we got all sorts of stuff there. We'll interact with you there too. You can send us messages there as well. We also have a Patreon. Nothing is there yet, but we have a lot of stuff planned for you for Patreon. We're just figuring that out right now. We don't really know what to do just yet, but when we do, you'll know, and you'll funnel your money into our money.
Into our coffers.
Yeah, there you go.
We got a bunch of eggheads working on it.
Well, we have some good stuff for you planned for the future.
We're figuring it out.
Yeah, so that's good. Lots of cool stuff. Anyway, thank you again. It means so much to us. Again, you know, wherever you listen, if you can subscribe or follow or rate us or even review us if you got the time. I mean, hell, now would be a good time.
Yeah, what do you
Please do
got
that.
going on?
It really helps us, and helps more people find us out. You know, so you're not listening to a niche podcast anymore. You know, you have friends that now listen to us.
If you're listening to a 5-star podcast, you got to jump in and give us 5 stars first, though.
Yeah.
It's a chicken and egg situation.
All right. Love you. Bye.
We had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. Or I guess we won't. Whatever.